rolling now with the JVC camera, and this is part of the interview. This is actually part two. The first part was on the Canon first tape. And we're now rolling on the JVC. We know the sound's good. We're hoping the picture's good.
When did you do your first piece of political art?
1989, I assume.
And what was that about?
The county commissioners.
And why?
Well, we had a particular set of county commissioners at that time where I considered had 1 foot out of the box. Maybe they were out of the box totally, but they had 1 foot out of the box. So I put them up there, and then I got into a Laurel Carlson one. That's the old gal.
Just had a technical issue that we resolved, and we're on the second tape at JVC, and we're with M.T. Liggett in his home in Mullinville, Kansas. His home, of course, was used to be a Methodist parson's house.
Okay, so your first one was the county commissioner,
Yeah.
and was there a particular issue that got you going, or was it?
There were puppets for the political elitists of the county, you know. Most politicians are puppets. You know, even though they don't give a shit about being you, not one whit. They don't give a damn what you think. The only thing they want you to do is vote for them. You know, a guy named Lowy wrote a book on that. You might have read that. And these politicians, the only thing they want to do is get reelected. Stay up there in their lofty positions, you know. Self-anointed elitist bourgeois.
You sound like a populist.
Probably am.
Hey, Is that a tradition that you know about, that you're connected to it in any way?
No. I don't share the beliefs of anybody. I don't check with another person that you're.
Well, I knew that populism was, went through this area, through Kansas. It was
Nothing
one of
wrong
the
with
hardest.
populism.
No. Believe me, I know. So I was wondering whether you had any kind of direct connection to that tradition.
I've never, you want to know the damn truth, I've never listened to anybody on anything very much. I'll figure things out for myself. Now, I can get guidance from you know, or you'll give me ideas. But I'm not going to watch your drum. And it's the same way in my art. Artists, elementary and high school and college art teachers probably ruin more artists than they create. There's only one way to be an artist. Be an artist. Get this stuff and take it off.
Let me go back to your political art.
Okay.
Because your first one was local,
Yeah.
about the county.
Then I got on the Clinton. Bob Dole. Called Bob Dole. I sold it somewhere. I don't know where it is. Called the Juggler. I used a bunch of spray. And Bob Dole is a juggler. You know, he used these war records. You know that. And he juggled people. And, you know, you want to know the real bottom. I mean, he done a lot of good things. That doesn't mean he's not an asshole. See, go ahead.
No, go on.
So I do my art. It's there to do. How else you gonna? You look at Rush Limbaugh. Look at all these guys that go day after day after day after day. They talk and they print and they do all this stuff, and it doesn't do one iota of good. It doesn't change anything. Will my art change stuff? Yeah, it will, because it's right there in front of you for the shock effect. like the swastika on Hillary. Boom, how many swastikas do you see displayed in the United States, kid? Damn few. That swastika down there, because that, in my estimation, I put it there for a purpose. The swastika wasn't bad in future, by the way. It wasn't a bad symbol. Like the Hitler made it a demonic symbol. I carried it on to Hillary Clinton because I figured she is probably one of the most dangerous individuals who ever walked upon the face of the earth politically.
Why?
She's a fake.
A lot of people are fakes. So why is she particularly,
Are the most dangerous.
or the most dangerous?
Because her ideas are for sale. For power. She would make a good, she could ride side saddle with Attila the Hun pretty easy. Any woman, to show you that, any woman that would let her husband engage in oral sex with a woman and let him get by with it, there's something wrong. My girlfriend, which is rightfully so.
How does that make her the most dangerous woman?
But the reason, because Hillary Clinton, she says one thing and does another. She's interested in only one thing, and that's power. That's all she wants is power. She will run for president.
MT, many of your neighbors agree with you about that. I'm sure here in the mid part of the country, they agree with you at least that she's a person they don't like. They may not think she's the most dangerous person. And they also agree with you that Waco was an amazing event that woke people up to the power of the federal government.
Yeah, but they went back to sleep too.
However, your art could not have shocked them because they agree with you. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it shocks me. Ultimately, I got a swastika on my, you know, I think I got Al Gore down there, you know. Good God. Good God. Al Gore, president. I mean, talk about a guy that's fake. Madeleine Albright. Not necessarily, but here's Madeleine Albright, okay? She's a Jewish lady. That's got nothing to do with it. But here's a woman gone over to establish diplomatic relations in the Arab countries. Well, now, I can't help this, but in the Arab countries, women are still more than a goat and less than a camel. That's always been that. Now we got a Jewish lady going over there and engaging in this stuff. She hadn't accomplished a damn thing, or didn't. We're right today in Israel, just exactly where we were years ago.
MG, it seems also to me that most of the work down there is just a tremendous amount of it is political comment, and that you were really, really energetic, interested, and worked very hard to put those pieces out there. Is that because the politics interested you, or because you all of a sudden felt strength in your business of your ability to make art? Or was it together?
That's together,
Okay.
to get a business, you know, I mean, to get, Hannah Elson, you could write all day and about Hillary Clinton, and there she is, standing on top of a swastika.
When did you do that piece?
No idea.
It's on the back of it.
Oh, that's right,
On the
yeah.
back of it.
Because the Waco's real well dated.
But
It's-
you see, you don't have to worry about, you know, I've had people say that I'm a dangerous man to the society. I'm not gonna hurt the sons of bitches. They're not worth it. I mean, I agree that over the Monica Lewinsky deal, he should have been castrated. But he wasn't. I'm not gonna do it, because the son of a bitch is not worth it. Now, I'm not a moralist either. You know, in that respect.
Right. Well, not exactly.
Stay with the art.
Well, it's also you say you're not a moralist. It sounds like a moral argument that you're making in your art.
Well, no, this is tweet. Yes, it's a message. You know, I got Lorena Bobbitt down there, and and the Clarence Thomas. You know that old gal that I got one down there called that Judge Smacky Pig that raised so much hell about
Uh-huh.
Clarence Thomas. What the hell was her? I met her.
You know who he's talking about, the woman who testified against Thomas.
You mean, she means
But not Anita Hill, but the
No,
other.
oh,
Well, Anita Hill, look at her.
I don't know who he's talking about.
There's another woman, I know. We're getting off the subject.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, we're not. We're staying, we're good. Your protest, I mean, I'm gonna call it protest. I don't wanna use that word if you don't want to. But it's against people during the Clinton era, for the most part. I noticed that you don't have certain other groups that a lot of people would expect. For instance, I don't see pictures down there or art that go after black people, for instance. Why is that?
I ain't gonna go there, Rick.
You're not gonna what?
I won't go there.
Do you believe it, or is it just that you won't go there?
Well,
In terms of
I
your,
think the black people have.
in terms of your art, I'm trying to stay.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna do black art. I'm not gonna do it. It's the only one down there is Clarence Thomas, and that will probably be the only one, because some of these people go crazy when you get on, they think you're crossing over the line, and hell, you know, might burn you out, who knows?
You're afraid of black people then?
No, I'm not afraid of black people. I'm afraid of what the white people would cause. They'll create it.
You mean you would make political art dealing with black people, except that it would cause too much controversy? I just want you to tell me what you would do, or what you thought about.
Well, I think the black man has a legal bitch, I really do. I think they really do. But I think the people that are, like I said, this Farrakhan and this Abernathy and Jesse Jackson, I think they're phonies. It's very obvious that they are.
But you
Look at
did,
Jesse Jackson, he fathered a child, you know, and here he is up there praying with Clinton, and it shows a pregnant woman in the background, and this woman and he was married. They were not married, they were married, but not to each other. I mean, God almighty.
MT, all that's true, but I don't see any art down there that talks about that.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not going there. I won't go there. I will not go there. I've got no kick against the black people whatsoever, so I'll leave them alone.
The homosexual community, gay community, over the same period in which your political art came out, in 92, 93, 94, also reached, it looks like, a very important part of American society, reached an important part in politics. And I noticed that you don't have any of that down there
Well,
either.
no business, none of mine. Your sexual orientation is yours. Why should I talk about it? It's not any of my business whatsoever. None.
I noticed that you also don't have any anti-Semitic work down there, that Jews can be a target of many groups, and I noticed that you don't have any down there. Is that correct?
Well, I don't. I mean, Jesus. I think that in 1948, this Jewish Israel was probably created to fill a prophecy of the book. But one thing about it, you don't screw around with the Israelis. They're real Machiavellians, and you know it. We're seeing a good example of that coming right away right today, the election.
Did you, you keep up, it's real clear you keep up on a daily basis with everything in politics. At one time, that took the form of you making art on the side of the road that dealt with those politics. Now I think, that your art has shifted to abstraction and away from politics as such. Is that true, what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's true.
And can you tell me sort of when that took place? Because I know up until 1996, you were still making those, because I see them out there. They're talking about Clinton and so forth, and seemingly around 1998, or somewhere in that time, you sort of turned your back on that. Am I correct in that?
It didn't do any good, did it?
I don't know. I'm just asking, am I correct?
Did it?
I don't know. Am I
do
correct?
that, it stops people. I put some of that art up there for controversy, let's face it, for the ignorant. You know, the intellectual people, believe it or not, whether they agree with me or not, the intellectual people they don't come down here. They come here, but they don't argue with what I'm doing, because they know I have that right, and they can foresee what I'm trying to do. Will I get after Bush? Probably not. Bush is not worth it.
MT, many people, I'm sure, I haven't had anybody actually tell me this, but I think that many people see you as a right-wing crank, a dangerous man in the middle of the country.
True.
Tell me about that. Do you hear that from people?
Well, sure they think I am.
And
But
what?
they don't, if they would stop and look at the whole damn show, they would see. I've got to have the shock effect to get people to stop. People's going down the road, they see that damn swastika, they see that fern, so they stop. Okay. Then the rest of it now, and then in 97, 96, someplace in there, I went into kind of preserving some of the things in my life, because I've had a beautiful life. I've had a lot of waiting. I wish I had those I'll send you a picture of myself and Marilee, just until I got sick. We were beautiful people, you know, we really were. You know, we'd go to a dance and everybody would look the other way. And, but anyway, I started preserving some of my life and my relationships, my love affairs and things like this. And,
When did you do Jamaica? What year?
Jamaica, 98,
So that was about the time that you were shifting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I've got to build one called Tokyo Rose and Amapola, which is poppy in Espanol. I went with, one of my girlfriends was a member of the Spanish royalty, and Jolie Blum. And
Are you finished now with political art?
probably. It's, you see, right or wrong, I'm not into the rights or wrongs of Clinton. He was a good subject for an artist. The things he did, like that telephone sax down there, I got the fly coming, the telephone coming out of his fly. He got a telephone in one hand, a sax in the other, telephone sax. Well, it's a good subject. I had Monica's dress. Now, you go ahead.
I'm done.
You're done with all, okay. Well, one of the things we were talking about last night about your art, it seemed like when you were doing that, there was a current in the country that was enraged, that was really angry at the government, and that people who shared that could look at your art and see that, and could feel the same thing. And one of the things you haven't talked about in talking about Clinton was your feeling about bureaucrats and the federal government, which comes up in various places and in some of the current art that you're doing in that text. The
No
tax
different than politics are no different in Mullinville, Kansas, or you go to the county level, or you go to a university where it's at you yourself, there's people there that are bureaucrats because they're there to perpetuate their own self-importance and piss on everything else. Even the prison system in the United States is a self-perpetuating thing. So we've developed into that. There's no characters left. There's very few characters left in the United States. Very few. That will stand up and say what they believe. Every tape interview, I'll tell anybody, a man is never remembered by words he did not say. So people have chosen to live in, as we discussed this, silent desperation. And silence is what? Silence is a lie. It is a lie. If you believe something and you don't speak out, you have lied to yourself. And you start lying to yourself, you got a real problem.
That's the whiff of totalitarianism you talk about, actually. It's, okay. Let me shift the topic. Another thing that you've talked about that goes deep in this particular part of the land is the Indians and who lived here. And can you just tell me some of what you think about that, about the Indians who lived here, about our relationship to them, how it affects your art, if it does?
Well, sure, I've got a lot of Indian stuff down there. First off, the Indian was it lasted for thousands of years. Don't believe these other guys that said that the Indians only been here 1,000 years. I can take you down there and we'll pick up airheads and stuff. I can prove to you 15,000 years. But anyway, the perfect social order existed here. The culture. And it listed all through the West, in the Paiutes and things like that. It was a perfect social order. So the first thing we did is we come out here, and the Christians, or whoever who it was, said they're savages because they're non-Christians. They believe in worshiping buffalo, that the tree, and everybody has a spirit. And the Indian believed it. They believed in sun gods and all this other stuff. Therefore, and since the guy ate his meat raw, and he didn't believe in somebody's certain God, you got a right to kill the bastard. And so he established this myth, we call him a savage, and we kill him. And we will have to pay for that someday, young sister, believe it or not. If there is a God, somebody's going to have to answer for killing all these people out here that we did. Now, somebody's going to have to answer to that one. If there is a God.
Is there any kind of trace on the land of that responsibility, of that guilt?
No, we don't. A man with no conscience is nothing. We don't have a conscience. You know, if you don't have conscience, you're nothing. And we evidently don't have a conscience. We got them locked up in Chinle, Arizona, and Window Rock, and down south of Tucson, and stuff like that. Jesus Christ. And feed them alcohol.
Are there any pieces of your art that you relate back to the Indians?
Sure, wiki up. And then I've got several Indians I'm doing it. But see, I get this bought, see, people come snatch up my Indian stuff just almost as soon as I build it. I got one over there, Othello, Othello holding the pearl, when he killed Desdemona. And he said, well, in other words, in essence, he killed something. He killed the pearl that was worth more than the riches of all the tribes.
When you were growing up here, did you find the points and the traces of Indians?
Oh, sure. I got it down there. Sure.
Do you have a collection?
No.
You didn't collect them? If you did.
I dug in those trenches up there in Illinois and found the charcoal remains of humans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I had some of those bones one time and I know what I have to do this.
We're 30 minutes into this tape. I think it's a good time to take a break,
Okay.
and we'll come back. MT, tell me what happens when you go into the cafe.
Down here?
Yeah, tell me about the cafe. What's the cafe mean?
Well, there's some good people in the cafe. There really are. There's a lot of good people here. But then there's some people here that I absolutely deplore. I've made this statement before, and maybe I shouldn't be making on this thing. I don't know what you're gonna do with this thing. But you know, I've been to the car seat jungles in Central America with 50-cent orders. I've been to the muckluck shuffles in the Arctic. I've been into the whorehouse brawls in Southern Europe. And I've been to that knife fights in Hong Kong. And I've met some decadent people. But I don't think I've ever met anybody that's as decadent as some of these people and their beliefs around here. Right here. Guy stands down there and he hands out pamphlets at the church. And yet he sleeps with another guy's wife and the guy begs him not to. That's what should happen. But we have, and yet they judge me.
Who goes to the cafe?
Everybody in the community, most of the people, not everybody. I mean, it's a good place, run by good people. Connie and Wandorfer are good people. They're commoners. But we have a caste system in Kansas that's far greater than what the Hindus have in India. You've been to India? I mean, they have the caste system. We have one here. It's, you know, the strata.
Do they all show up at the cafe?
Oh, no. Sit and tell the same stories they've been telling for 20 years. You could stay out of the company, you could go out there, you could go down there tomorrow morning and engage in a conversation. And not go back for another 10 years and enjoy it. Get right back into the conversation, you haven't missed anything.
Was it like that 70 years ago? 60 years?
I want to stay at the cafe.
Okay.
Sorry, I know where you're going. I want to get to that too.
Yeah.
That's the history, but
Yeah.
I want to do right this minute.
Okay.
What the cafe is like.
Scratch
Do
that.
people in the cafe, when you go there, tell me about the cafe. Are there a lot of cafes in Mullinville?
There's one.
There's one what?
One cafe in Mullinville, Kansas. Used to be 3. But see, this whole news strata deal, or how do you want to say it? I don't know. This has developed over the last 70 years. The government come in here, they started handing out subsidies to these farmers, and the big guy ate up the small, till now there's only a few guys left. There's never a new farmer ever starts here. There's no blacks, there's no Mexicans, there's no Vietnamese, there's no Asiatics. Period. And I'm sure that if a black farmer come in and try to get started, he'd be in a world of shit. I mean, I don't know what would happen. I'd like to see it.
Doesn't everybody you know around here though, don't they show up there at that cafe at one time or the other?
Not everybody, no. There's some people who won't take part in it.
Take part?
They don't want to take part in some of the, this social maneuverings. Some people don't want to do it, they just leave it alone. I'm not against these people. Hey, don't get me wrong. Let them believe how they want. But leave me alone. They judge me, like going over telling Marilee, that time when I started going with this lady, Marilee Williams, they went over and they told her, and they had a concerned citizens committee to come over and went over and said what a rapscallion, terrible, decadent, individual, immoral guy I was. She didn't tell you what she told him. They went over twice, you know. Finally, she never swears, but says, why don't you get out of here and leave that son of a bitch alone? See, I'm good to Mary Lee. I'm not immoral.
Did the people who went to see Mary Lee, were they from Mullinville?
Yes.
Do you see them in the cafe?
Oh, yeah. And they're the pillars of community, the controlling interest. You see, people here, there's a lot of people here. A lot of people. And not just in Kansas, it has permeated throughout our whole social structure. A lot of people are ignorant by choice. And when you're ignorant by choice, you become an automaton conformist, automatic person. I am going to do what you say because you have my substance check, or I'm going to do what you say because you have power over me.
Do you eat all your meals there?
No. No, I eat a lot with Mary Lee. You see, I'm not a man of means, okay? But I'm not broke. And I believe that if you have something, you should share it. I believe in the old break bread thing. A lot of people have never sat down, like in Europe. I used to have a girl, and we got a loaf of that bread, and we'd break bread and put cheese on it and drink wine. Well, I think that if you have something, you should share it. And and a sustenance is a good way. Take her to a restaurant. We lots of times don't communicate much, but I share with Mary Lee. Me too. Not only my monetary things, I share me with Mary Lee. We don't have a lot of that here.
Do you know why that happened here in Kansas?
It happened all over the world. They say the family farmer, not all over the world, just the family farmer. There's no such thing as a family farmer. Most of the farmers are avaricistic. And they'll say, don't cuss a farmer with your mouth full of food. That's not necessarily true. I think the government made a terrible mistake by coming out here and doing what they did. I lay a lot of this, it started in 1936. The fittest will survive,
All right. I'm finished with that, Jan.
Okay. Tell me some about the changes that you've seen, because you were away and you came back, so you've been able to see how this area has changed in your lifetime. And describe that, as you think about it.
You mean, how did Mullinville itself change?
If you think about that, I don't.
We've changed mental values, where now we're going by, I'm smart because I inherited a lot of money. 50, 60 years ago was nothing to inherit. I've got phases of that down here in my art, and one of these days I'll show it out to you.
Yeah, can you just describe some of it? Because we photographed a bunch, and if we don't get a chance to get it down, can you describe it?
Well, like there's a judge down there that come from nothing. The sheriff down there that come from nothing. And then I have a lot of people down there that think there's something and they're truly assholes. And I've got them down there.
Did I understand you to say that the judge and the sheriff came from nothing and you respect that?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
They rose out of the, they rose from the ashes like the phoenix bird. Come up from, by God, I mean poor families, and they made it. Drug themselves up. We have a family up here named McKinley. one of the most intelligent group of big people you'd ever meet. They're all eccentric, but they're extremely intelligent. Extremely intelligent. And they're all gone but one. And the one that's left is, she's a nice gal. She's eccentric. Her name is Sybil. We get along all right.
Any of their kids stay around?
Nope. Sybil's the last one.
Is she up there on the?
Yep.
Finish his sentence for the tape. Is she up there?
Oh, on the fence, in the row of art. Let me ask you a couple more questions about the location of various pieces of art. Most of your work is along that fence that's on the highway.
Yeah.
And then it goes around on the east side, do I have the direction right? On the east side, there where the shed was, where you had your horse, right?
Yeah.
And then it jogs back and goes back, there's a field there, what, about 20 acres that you don't own? There at the front's on the road, but it goes.
4 acres.
4 acres, okay. And then it goes on over to the next road and
And I
cuts
own
back. Right, and cuts on back to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a cluster of things by the cemetery, but then you don't have anything along that fence that faces the cemetery, I don't think.
Try to stay away from that.
Okay, can you talk about that?
Well, you know, I had no reason to put it down there. But see, I've got to, see, fairy tale, I got a lot of fairy tale stuff, you know, I got Rapunzel, she's down there. I have Rapunzel, who is I made Rapunzel to honor a good friend of mine, Cassie Campbell from Cimarron, Kansas. And Rapunzel is a beautiful story. And I've got the Wizard of Oz down here. I've got Hansel and Gretel. I've got Pied Piper and all this other stuff.
Over there by the cemetery.
Oh, it's all throughout, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I got, you know, I have Dorothy and all that stuff. But you see, I don't necessarily identify them as such. But the intelligent person come along, they'll pick it out. I'm not really doing this artwork. I'm doing this to reach people that are intelligent enough to figure things out. You know, as I've told you before, you know, there's these people that choose to be ignorant, they never pick up a book and read it, such as about Plato, Aristotle, and all these guys, or Homer, or all that stuff. If they don't pick up a book and read about Homer, I don't give a shit about them. I can't reach them. The well rope's not long to get down. I refuse. In other words, here, if I have to tell somebody who Socrates was, I mean, forget it. And I hate to get into that.
Now, over, down in the little draw, along
Over
the
here by the
fence,
cemetery.
over on the, yeah, you have a lot of bird houses and bird feeders.
Yeah.
Down in there.
A lot of birds.
Oh,
Birds got as much right to be there as I do. So I feed them. I feed the squirrel. I feed the possum. I feed the skunk. I feed the coon.
what do you feed them?
Cow cake, and corn, and grain. They won't bother you. Skunk won't spray you if you don't like them. In other words, you don't want to have any, the skunk doesn't want to have, damn sure doesn't want to have anything to do with you. Okay? I know that. So, I damn sure don't want to have any, so I leave the skunk alone. The skunk and the badger and all these animals that live down here in my pasture, they've got as much right to be there as I do. I just have a piece of paper that says it's mine. That doesn't mean I have to go out and go out and he wouldn't run over a turtle or something like that. That, you know, that is something, you know, you really have to figure out for yourself. But, you know, if it's in your background is your,
Mm-hmm.
my daddy put it in my background. Go ahead.
No, I was just checking out what he was doing.
See, I've
Well,
got turtles, I've got rabbits, I've got owls, I've got chickens, and you know, the whole nine yards.
right. Oh, one question I had, I've seen a number of your pieces around town. On mailboxes and in yards and things. Do you give those away? Do you sell them?
I give them, they're here in town.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've had a lot of people, I had a woman one time, I gave her a chicken. And she come back bitching about the color, so I brought the chicken back. They never, it's been years ago, and they never will get that chicken back.
I understand that, yep. Yep. Okay, oh, I know where, there's a big question here that we've kind of been walking around, which has to do with the relationship, and we've come back to it a number of different ways, but the relationship of your work to that piece of ground. Could it be any piece of ground, or was there some kind of direct attachment to that piece of ground?
Well, that's my home. I was raised right there. Played there when I was a kid. Sledded up and down the hill. Froze to death. You know, I froze to death. Man, we got cold and played. And you see, when I was a kid, there wasn't none of these programs to look after to feed you or clothe you or, you know, places, kids clubs and things that everybody thinks you got to do to take the responsibility of raising a kid away from the parent. Dress them all alike, put them in uniforms, what a bunch of shit. And then go ahead.
Well, if you had, just as a hypothetical, if your mother had sold off the place or something, you know, and you hadn't gotten it, and you were out in Texas and had bought a piece of ground there for some reason, can you imagine this same work being there?
I can now. Whereas
What about
Okay.
15 years ago?
I doubt it.
Okay, tell me
See, I
about
was
that.
attached to this ground. My daddy sold it once and I bought it back. This place right over here, the near piece, I was the first guy to buy that. But that big pasture down there, I mean, my daddy sold that big pasture and I bought it back.
Is there something about Kansas as well as this land and family land?
Kansas has got wind, you're gonna have wind. Tornadoes, wind comes.
So you
You
couldn't,
see, wind is movement, and art's gotta be movement too. See, as long as I'd like to live 100 years and then I could really get to going, you know. But now, see, I know just about how long I'm gonna live. I mean, and that's not being pessimistic. You know, you gotta face a fact. I am not going to live very long. I know that. In other words, I can see the end.
Tell me about the end.
I mean, what happens to me when I die?
What's gonna happen?
I believe they're gonna bury me, and that's it.
Is there gonna be anybody at your funeral?
No. That's my choice. Bury me like a Muslim.
Do you
Hang
think
white
that,
sheet and wrap me in the thing, throw me in the damn hole for the second son and walk off.
do you think that people will miss you when you're gone?
I don't give a shit.
Do you think they will?
I have no idea. They're not gonna replace M.T. Liggett in this town. I'm the only guy around here like it. This is what happened. They got rid of the old characters. There's no characters left here. They don't. Does the four-letter word bother you? In other words, here, There's nobody in this town that's got brains enough to tell another guy, fuck you. Well, what have we reached in this life when I can't tell you what I think? Because, and if you do, then you're an outsider. They say I'm eccentric. I'm not eccentric. I believe that M.T. Liggett is one of a kind. That everybody is one of a kind. I don't believe in role models. That's a crock of shit. Why should you have a role model? To pattern your life after some other asshole? God almighty. Because you're unique. You're the only one. You're the only Jane. So why should you make Jane be like somebody else? Which you're not. Which gets us back to the Catholic Church and the nuns. God, what a waste.
MT, we've noticed that there are a number of grassroots artists in Kansas. And as we've talked to people who know you, like Rosalind Schultz at the museum in Lucas, Kansas, she says there's something about this area, about Kansas. Do you know if that's true? Tell me about Kansas a little bit more and why perhaps what you've done here makes sense in Kansas.
I'm a gene that come from one of my forefathers or foremother or which one. In other words, the gene that made those old bastards come out here in the first place is in me.
Come out here where?
To Kansas. That made them forget the comforts of back east and, and the security of where they want. And so then they moved. They came here.
Do that whole story, be sure and use the word Kansas, and let me hear you say that again.
Well, Kansas was the land of freedom. And here it is, way out here in the middle, and there's nothing here. At Dodge City, they shoot them up and all, when men were men, and, that's why there'll always be a John Wayne. There's John Wayne in all of us. The reason that John Wayne is so well respected in the movies, because he give the attitude or the demeanor that he ain't gonna take no shit off anybody, and he didn't. All artists are the same. No artist will conform to anything.
But MT, you just said a moment ago that you were the gene from those people, what'd you call them, who came out here?
My forefathers.
Would you mind telling me that story again that came out to Kansas?
My grandfather, he come through as a runaway boy in 1882.
But the gene you're talking about.
And the gene, I come from that gene. In other words, it was some gene that was passed to my father, and my father passed it to me. And now I'm here, and I don't know whether it's going on to my kids or not, don't look like it.
Did that come down to women too?
Sure.
Okay. What do you think about the women who came out here?
The women that come out here were far more brave, far more hardworking, had more guts than a man ever did. I can take you over here in my pasture and I can show you a whole world dugout used to be. Can you imagine getting ready to lay down and have a kid 50 miles away from a doctor and have to shake the rattlesnakes out of the bed before you can lay down and have a kid? And this country was permeated with that kind of people. And these women done with nothing. Nothing. And they made a living.
Hold a shot.
So, down south of here, in southern Kansas, in south central Kansas, there's a series of streams. You had to have water. So the people settled along the streams in southern Kansas first. Then when they learned how to dig wells, they moved up here to Mullinville, Kansas in 1885 or so.
Tell me about those people again who came to Kansas. What kind of people were they? What were they looking for?
Freedom. From the constraints of back east, the coal miners and the steel workers and stuff, they got enough of that back there. I mean, what's the difference between a guy working in a steel mill, a coal mine, and a slave? There's no difference. Same thing. Guy that works in the wood mills, and so they come out here and there was a sense of freedom. come to places like Mullenville, Kansas, Buckland, Ford, Greensburg, Dodge City. And of course, Dodge City was the Babylon of the West. And go up there and you'll see, and then we had the original Front Street. I can remember Front Street, Dodge City, Kansas. I can, with the old whorehouses and stuff like that. And they tore them down, the idiotic bastards. And the reason they tore it down, because they wanted to get money. They took the original Front Street of Dodge City, Kansas, the idiot sons of bitches, and tore it down and made a parking lot out of it. It's hard to believe. Right, and they said, well, the old O'Neill Hotel was a whorehouse. It was. Well, if you don't like a whorehouse, stay out of it. They're damn sure not gonna come in your house. And they served a purpose. You didn't see the kinky, when I was growing up, there wasn't these kinky people that there is today. Because you didn't have to be kinky. I remember my first woman, the first woman that led me down the Primrose Path was a hooker. That don't mean she's a bad girl. She served a purpose. I didn't have to ride around the tractor anymore and wonder about what it was like to be a woman, with a woman. I knew what it was like to be with a woman. Because she taught me. And she was a hooker. I don't mean she's a bad girl. She didn't do anything bad. She taught me something that I wanted to know. Okay? So anyway, we destroyed Dodge City. And she will never recover. There was room enough up there for 200, 250 artists in the old Front Street of Dodge City, and it's gone. And it'll never come back. So, how do we get on this crap?
I wanted to ask, I was asking you about Kansas and what was special about this place for you.
Well, it's, it's special, because, but now we've come back, and all the old people, like my father and my grandfather and all these old characters that used to live in Mullenville were all dead, or else they just left. The guy that invented the boxcar hitch used to be from Mullenville. The guy that made the first self-propelled combine was from Mullenville. This is coming. The first guy to ever put a television inside a heart came from Mullenville, Kansas. Yeah, me and my brother. But anyway, but it's all gone. Everybody's similar. Everybody's dressed in the same uniform. Mental uniform. But they might as well all wear khakis like they do in China, or khakis like they do up there in the schools in Dodge City and Wichita. Dress all the kids the same.
Is the idea of Kansas gone?
Yes, it's gone.
Say it to me.
The thinking of the people that created Kansas is gone. I'm one of the few that's left. There's other guys, there's other people around, and women, that think like I do, but I don't see any of them. When we're gone, that's it. I mean, Kansas is going to survive, but the thing that created Kansas is fading out. Dodge City, wouldn't you like to see an old Dodge City in her heyday? God dang if you didn't like somebody to walk up and slap the living shit out of him,
That era is over.
Pull the shot.